Losing someone hurts. Time can heal, sure, but that usually only works for the few people you lose to a fight, a death, or a reason you can point to. But the hundreds who quietly drift out of your life, time doesn't heal that. It only makes you miss them more. Statistically, you lose roughly 50% of your closest relationships every 7 years, meaning that half of the people you regularly talk to right now will eventually become strangers to you. Strangers who still know each other, still remember things, still think about each other from time to time, and for most of these losses, nothing will go wrong. The relationship will just die out so slowly that you probably won't notice it did. Because most friendships exist because of forced proximity. School, classrooms, shared routines, seeing the same people every day without having to try. And when that structure disappears, which it almost always does, a lot of those connections disappear with it. People move, schedules change, lives stop overlapping, and so messages come less often, and replies start to take longer each time, until one day there's nothing left to respond to. This drift spikes at very specific points in life. Studies show that friendship satisfaction drops sharply between the ages of 18 and 29, because that's when attention gets fragmented for the first time. School ends, people move cities, responsibilities start, everyone is suddenly managing time, energy, and identity all at once, and most people haven't learned how to do that yet. You don't lose people because you wanted to. You lose them because you didn't know how to carry them forward. And unlike the losses you notice, these disappearances leave no closure. And because of the Zeigarnik effect, our brain's tendency to remember unfinished tasks, they linger as names you almost search for, messages you almost send, people you almost reach out to but never do. Eventually, the silence feels permanent. You stop expecting them to be part of your life, and in a way, they stop expecting you to be in theirs. And yet all that time apart doesn't erase the part of you that remembers them and wishes for them back, because you're still following each other, still seeing their posts, watching birthdays pass that you don't message them for anymore, life updates you weren't part of. You scroll past their photos and feel this strange sense of knowing someone without actually knowing them anymore, and you hate it. So, you think of reaching out again. You imagine what it would be like to just send a message, to hear a voice, to reconnect. But what if they don't feel the same? What if they forgot about you a while back? Maybe they don't care anymore. Maybe they changed too much and they're no longer the person you knew. Maybe it's awkward, embarrassing even. Maybe the timing is wrong. Doubts keep flooding your mind as you're looking at your past messages which now feel like they weren't yours to begin with. And so, you don't send anything. Every time you don't. Because the longer it's been, the harder it feels to justify breaking the silence, even if the reason for the silence was never intentional in the first place. Psychologically, this makes sense. Humans tend to avoid situations where the outcome is unclear and emotionally risky. Reaching out to someone you haven't spoken to in years carries the possibility of rejection, awkwardness, or indifference. Even if that outcome is unlikely, which it is, the brain treats it as a threat, so it chooses the safer option, which is doing nothing. And there's a decent chance the person you're thinking of experiences the same thoughts, and yet you might never talk again, because the person initiating consistently predicts rejection or awkwardness, although it's statistically unlikely. In large studies on reconnection, the overwhelming majority reported feeling happy, surprised, or genuinely touched when someone from their past reaches out. Even when they don't respond immediately, even when life has changed, the reaction is usually overwhelmingly positive. We consistently underestimate how much we matter to others. Psychologists call this the liking gap. We assume people care less than they actually do. That's why we fear risking it, and it's biological, not just mental. The brain processes social rejection using the same neural systems it uses for physical pain. To prove this, researchers put people in a brain scanner and had them play a simple online ball-tossing game. At first, everyone was included. Then, about halfway through this game of catch among the three of them, the subject stopped receiving the ball and the two other supposed players threw the ball only to each other. When people felt excluded, the areas that lit up were the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, regions normally active when the body experiences physical pain, like burning or injury. The brain reacted to being left out the same way it reacts to being hurt. The more rejected someone reported feeling, the stronger the pain response became. Social pain was processed as real pain. That's why the possibility of being ignored can feel like something to avoid at all costs. Staying silent hurts less in the short term, even if it costs you more over time. Meanwhile, life keeps moving. On average, an adult has about 5 people they consider very close, around 15 they feel emotionally close to, and roughly 150 total social connections at all times, meaning people don't get replaced so much as their roles do. Someone else becomes the person you talk to, or laugh with, or update about your day, but that doesn't erase the connection that existed before. It just means life filled the space functionally, not emotionally. Which is why certain people stay stuck in your mind even when you haven't spoken in years. They're probably the ones that you didn't fully replace their roles yet. And the longer it's been, the more your memory starts editing things. What you remember feels warmer, simpler, safer than it probably was, especially during moments when you feel lonely or uncertain about where your life is headed. Studies led by Konstantin Sadikides found that when people feel lonely, anxious, or uncertain, they instinctively reach for memories that restore continuity. The COVID-19 pandemic made that truth impossible to ignore. During lockdowns, we rewatched comfort shows, baked childhood snacks, streamed old songs. Data from Spotify showed a surge in music from the listeners' teenage years, especially early 2000 pop. Even Google searches for nostalgia hit record highs in 2020. When the future shuts down, the past becomes our safest place to hide. And that's why you tell yourself you'll reach out someday. Not now, not like this, not without some reason, which you know will probably never come. You think about typing the message more times than you can count, usually late at night, usually when something reminds you of them for no clear reason. And you're not alone in this. The average adult frequently recalls past relationships, often multiple times a week. In the end, the connection survives only in your head. You picture running into them someday by accident. At an airport maybe, somehow booking the seat next to you on a plane, somewhere fate can take the blame for the conversation starting. In your imagination, it goes smoothly. You catch up effortlessly. You laugh the way you used to. You feel that old familiarity snap back into place like it never left. And deep down, you know that if it ever actually happened, it probably wouldn't feel like that. It would be clumsy, brief, polite, or painfully short, which somehow makes the imagined version even harder to let go of. People feel embarrassed for missing someone who hasn't contacted them, embarrassed for caring more than they think the other person does. Thoughts like, if they wanted to talk to me, they would, or it's been too long for me to feel this way. So the attachment gets treated like a weakness, something immature, something to outgrow. Even though attachment is one of the most human things there is. And what makes this harder is that our fear is usually wrong. When researchers actually looked at what happens, they found that when adults reconnect with childhood friends decades later, they often describe something unexpected. Not that it feels exactly the same, but that it comes back faster than they thought it would. Awkwardness, when it showed up at all, usually faded within 1 or 2 exchanges. What people actually regretted most wasn't trying and failing. It was never trying at all. And middle-aged people who never did rank it as their biggest regret. Hospice nurses often talk about what people mention at the end of their lives. It's rarely missed promotions or unfinished goals. It's people. Because we don't realise how much someone mattered to us while they were still around. We realise it in the void they leave behind. Some were only meant to exist in a specific chapter of your life. They belong to a version of you that no longer fully exists. And that's okay, but it doesn't mean you should just forget them either. Mark Granovetter found that it's often the weaker ties in our lives, old friends, distant connections, that shape us more than we realise. They're the ones that expand our sense of the world, that remind us of who we used to be and who we might still become. Yet you almost never know when you're living the last normal day with someone. You always assume you'll stay in touch, both of you do, until one day you realise you didn't.